So I'm going to have a second go at the intro for this video because the first time I spent way too long explaining why these are called strip boxes. And you know what? I think you can figure that out for yourself. The advantage of a strip box is you get two light modifiers in one. You get a small light source or you get a large light source because you can use it either way round. I'm using the glow strip boxes from Adorama, and in my studio they've become really essential, and these two in particular. So I'm going to share some tips on how to get the best out of strip boxes, explain what they can do, and a few things that they can't do. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. And at the end, I've got a kind of an idea which might be brilliant, it might not, we'll see when we get there. But for now, let's go through the basics of using them, using the largest strip box I own, which is this one right here. So let's get a light set, let's get a model in, let's get shooting. To help me out today, I've got the amazing Sophie. Sophie's going to be the model for this photo session, and I'm going to start with the strip box, the biggest one I've got because, well, why wouldn't you? So up there I've got a Flashpoint Explore 300 Pro, and the strip box is the EasyLock 12 by 56 inch strip box. It is a really big light source. It should give me really soft light, and I'm going to start with it in a vertical position because, well, that's how most of us use strip boxes. Let's just take a test photo and see how this looks. Okay, Sophie, just look towards the side. Here we go. And as you would imagine, this is big, soft, wraparound lighting that looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, it's a really good idea to take a wide picture so you can understand how your light is actually working. What does it bounce off? How far does it spread? So let's take that picture too. So I'm going to back myself up. Okay, Sophie, here we go. And that is a very wide picture. I can see the strip of light. It looks exactly as you would imagine. Really nice fall off, gorgeous lighting. The thing about a strip box is it's a very narrow light. So if I ask Sophie to do something like, oh, I don't know, Sophie, just take a good step towards me, Sophie will step out of that light. Let's have a look at this photo. So Sophie, you're going to look straight at me. And sure enough, now the light is, well, as it was before, but not really reaching Sophie. And if I get Sophie to turn her head, then I can actually get really nice dramatic light on Sophie. So the strip box can create really dramatic lighting with only a small change in your subject's position. But of course, that's not just the only way you can use it. So what I've done is I've spun the strip box round by 90 degrees to a position that maybe you don't always think that you can use a strip box, but it'll work perfectly well. And it's a strip box. You can imagine the shape of the light that's going to come out of here. And if you can, pop it in the comments below before you keep watching. What's the shape of the light going to be? So it's not going to change the power because the distance between the light source and Sophie is exactly the same. It's just going to change the shape of the light. So let's just take a nice close-up picture of Sophie. Here we go. And it looks really nice. It's still gorgeous lighting, but now it's slightly elongated. It wraps around Sophie a little bit more. So let's do that wide picture like we did before, and then we can see that strip of light. Here we go. And when you look at it, you don't actually get a strip of light. If you're expecting to see a long, thin strip of light, that's not how light works. Light is shaped by the last surface it passes through, which in this case is this little sheet here, which is, well, only around about that far away from the front edge of the light source. So it just goes really wide. But nonetheless, it's nice light, so I think we should take a few photos like this. Sophie, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. If you're hoping for that more controlled or channeled beam of light from your strip box, actually that's what the grid is there for. It'll give you exactly that look by stopping the light spreading out the sides. So I've changed things around slightly. You'll notice we now have a red background, but I still have my camera settings set to f5.6 for a good depth of field, ISO 200, my native ISO, and 250th of a second, my flash sync speed, which gives me no flash, no picture. So this Stripbox will be the only light we see, and I've set it in its horizontal position. Now, it's a large light source, so having it in this position kind of makes sense because it's going to wrap light around Sophie, but where do I put Sophie to really maximize the effect? Well, there's a couple of ways we could do it. Sophie, if you go right back to the edge, the far edge of the light. Now, I've already metered this out for f5.6, so if I take a picture at that setting with Sophie at the back, I'm going to get quite a nice wrapping light. Okay, Sophie, here we go. It's a directional light source, so Sophie still has to look slightly to the side, but you can see that I'm lighting Sophie's face, her far cheek, her close cheek, her ear that's effectively blocked by the flash, but because it so far extends in front of Sophie, light is reaching her dark side. So let's do the exact opposite. Sophie, if you want to come and stand at the other end of the Stripbox, and Sophie's going to need to look towards the light because at this point, if we don't, then we're going to have no light in her eyes whatsoever. And the end result now is much darker. So we have light on Sophie's face, but her ear has completely disappeared. So we can get extremes of look just by moving Sophie around, but where should you put your subject? Well, I'm going to suggest, if you want to put them in one place only, around about a third of the way in from the back. So Sophie, you're going to go back, roughly a third, yeah, around about there, something like that. That's going to give me a couple of things. It's going to give me light at the front that's going to wrap around because of the size of this softbox. So some of it will find its way to the dark side of Sophie, and a little bit of light from the back will hit the back of Sophie's head. I've elevated up, so I'll also get some light on the top of Sophie's head. But really, the secret to this light is a slightly different framing of my picture. Have a look at this. So if I frame this wider, what I get is exactly what I would expect. Remember, this is a strip box, so the source of light is relatively small. As we get further away from the source of light, so the light becomes ever darker. We call it the inverse square law if you want to find out more about that. We've got a lot of videos on that subject right here on Adorama TV. The upshot is, I've metered correctly for Sophie's face, but by the time we get down to her waist, it's several stops underexposed. A beautiful fall off of light gives some fantastic images. With that in mind, I think we should take a few. So Sophie, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, let's take a few pictures. I've got my Stripbox really close to Sophie, which means that this light fall off is very dramatic. If it's too intense for you, if you've got the space, you can always back up your Stripbox. That will still give you light fall off, but the further away it is, the less intense the effect. Of course, you don't have to have your light to the side. You can put your light directly in front of your subject, and horizontal is a great way to do that. If you want to do a beauty lighting look with a little bit of a difference, it is a really wide light source because it's this massive strip box, but it's the catch lights that perhaps are the most interesting. It looks really, really nice. It's a very simple setup. Let's take some photos. Okay, Sophie, here we go. You might notice something missing from this setup. I'm not using a boom arm because the 56-inch strip box is so large, I can actually put it just off center, so it's not in my shot, and it still gives me a pretty even lighting on Sophie. So I've changed things around again. So now the Stripbox is in its vertical orientation, which is probably the most likely way it's going to get used. And the reason for that is you want to do a whole body or thereabouts evenly lit photo where you have the Stripbox doing what it's supposed to do. And it kind of makes sense because if you think about it, every bit of this is now roughly the same distance away from Sophie. So where previously her face was correctly exposed but her knees were really dark, now her knees are the same distance as her face. So in theory, this should look nice and evenly lit. Well, let's find out. Okay, Sophie, here we go. And the answer is, well, yes it is. I mean, on the side with the light, it is evenly lit. The trouble with this lighting, and the reason you should never do it like this, is If you have the light this low down, most of the light is below Sophie's eye line, which means most of the light is coming upwards rather than down, and you end up with, well, basically Halloween lighting. This isn't a good look. So is there ever a time when you can put your strip box lower than your subject's eye line? Well, yes, and this is it. If the light's coming in from behind rather than in front, there isn't any problems with shadows on the face going in the wrong direction. And now, having the light even all the way down Sophie's side is going to give me even lighting all the way down her side. I've put a grid on it so it doesn't flare back into the camera. Also should help to stop the light hitting the background. Remember, no flash, no picture. And I have that nice evenly lit strip all the way around the edge of Sophie. Obviously, we can't see the rest of Sophie, and I think that might need fixing. So to light Sophie's dark side, I'm going to use a second strip box. This is the EasyLock 12 by 36 inch strip box. So it's smaller than our main one at the back, but it's more than perfect for this sort of work. It's really close to Sophie because we know that gives us nice light on Sophie's face, but being only 12 inches wide, gives a rapid fall off by the time I get lower down. But we should have the even light from the background to give the separation light from the background with our strip box back there. That's the idea. Let's see if it actually works. Quick little test photo, here we go. And it works really well. Great strip lighting on Sophie. The key light is putting light on her face but falling off by her knees, but it's also putting some light on the background. I think we should take a few photos like this. Sophie, are you ready? Okay, here we go. Of course, we could have stopped there, but why stop there when you have the opportunity just to go that little extra bit further? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use the strip boxes in ways they probably weren't really designed to work, but hey, we'll give it a whirl. Back here, I've got a flash. This is the only one without a strip box on it. This is the Flashpoint Explore 100 with a little diffusing dome, and its job is just to throw a circle of light on this red background. Around the front, we've got the small strip box, and it's going to be really close to where Sophie's going to be, and that's going to give us nice lighting on Sophie's face and then rapid fall off after that. Back here, well, we don't need the grid anymore. I've got the main strip box, the large strip box, and it is most deliberately in shot. And I'm going to set this so this comes out pure white. There's going to be a bit of tidying up in post-processing to do, but this is going to give us a strip of white light behind Sophie. It'll also wrap around a little bit onto her shoulders. It should give us a really nice look. No, you're not going to take the photos. A really nice look. Let's swap over places. Let's see how this looks. As this is working out better than I thought, I'm going to try rotating the strip box around and see if I can get maybe a diagonal. And not sure it's going to be wide enough for a vertical, but perhaps I'll try that too. Yeah, that last setup really was just a bit of fun, but I actually really like the results. It's not something you're going to regularly do with your strip boxes, but strip boxes are one of those things, until you've got one, you don't realize how much you're going to use it. I particularly find this one, the 12 by 36, super useful in my small home studio because it can be a larger or smaller softbox just by spinning it around. Really handy. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, just leave me a comment down below. Click on the bell icon and you'll never miss a video right here on Adorama TV. And of course, remember to click on that subscribe button. Actually, not physically this button, it's down there in the description. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.